So Bulb is something that started a little bit by accident. It wasn't exactly what I had intended, and it's definitely not what it sort of is now. When I was in college, when I was at the University of Toronto studying not music, and kind of wondering what I was going to do with my life, I wanted to start a band. I had my best friend at the time who was playing, we were just jamming on guitar, and we decided to start a band, and I think that was just one of the names that was floated. Bulb was the name that was floated, and it kind of stuck for whatever reason. But I was the one who took more of the initiative on the recording side and a lot of the sort of setup online and all that kind of stuff. So I set all that kind of stuff up, and it was all under my name and whatever. That band sort of fizzled out, as did that friendship, unfortunately. It's one of those typical stories. No hard feelings, of course, but it's just kind of the way it goes. This was really, when I think about it, my first band. Like, other than like in high school, if that counts, where we used to play covers. This is probably the first band where we were actually trying to write original material, collaborating together. And I was posting that up online, and after the band broke up or fizzled out or whatever, I just continued posting my recordings online. And I think I'd signed up on forums as Bulb, and that just sort of became associated with me. So people started calling me Bulb. So around this time, I realized I could make music on my computer. There were all these tools that were suddenly available, and now I could make music in my room by myself. I didn't have to go to a studio, and I could just kind of work on it on my own time whenever I felt like it, for however long I felt like it. Unfortunately, that probably affected my studies more than it should have, because I was just staying in and writing. But as I was writing this stuff, with no real end goal in sight, it's just something I was doing because I could. It was like, wow, this is awesome. I posted that stuff up on the forums I was frequenting at the time. I think it was the Meshuggah forum was a big one for me. 7string.org became a big one. I think of the Petrucci forum, and maybe Ultimate Metal, the Andy Sneap forum. There was quite a few forums I was just posting on, just because back then, if you just found people that were into metal, it wasn't as open as it is today. So it was like this common ground. And then I just happened to just be sharing this music that I was making in my bedroom. But I noticed that people were reacting very kindly to it. I thought maybe they were just being nice or whatever. I didn't really think there was anything that special about my music. But the one thing I did have going for me was that I was posting pretty often. So I was pretty prolific. I think I was just so excited about the ability of doing this. I was posting stuff even if it wasn't necessarily any good. But that regular sort of posting schedule, I think, just helped me build a bit of a reputation. And before I knew it, people really seemed to like my stuff, at least on the forums, and they were sort of expecting stuff, and they knew I tended to work kind of quickly, so they were always looking forward to the next thing. And it was this super organic thing. Like, I didn't really think about it at all. I was just really doing it for fun, and it sort of took on a life of its own. So the interesting thing around this time was I knew I wanted to start a band, and with some friends kind of started Periphery in its infancy. And that was always the dream, was to have a band and go on tour and do that kind of stuff. This Bulb stuff was just kind of me expressing myself very purely, but there wasn't really necessarily a goal. And there was this weird interplay between the two, because if a Bulb idea was something that could work well for Periphery, which, the idea with Periphery was to have vocals, the goal with Bulb was whatever, but it usually ended up instrumental because I can't sing. That's something that would transition from one project to the other. The other idea was that the Periphery stuff would be performed live, and the Bulb stuff there really wasn't any plan to perform that live. There was a brief point in which I entertained taking Bulb live with a sort of convertible band, as I put it. I was looking for musicians around the world where I could just travel, let's say to Europe, and just meet up with a bunch of very talented musicians who could just be my band for that run or whatever, because I was just so desperate to play some live shows. Shortly after that, Periphery kind of started to pick up, that got signed or whatever, and Bulb kind of fell onto the back burner. There were never really any serious record deals or offers like that for Bulb. And I don't know that I ever really would have entertained them anyways, because it really was sort of a project that was based around self-expression. I didn't really want it to be a financial thing or anything other than like, hey, I just feel like writing. So one question I've been getting a lot is, what is the difference between Bulb and Periphery? I think back in the day, there was probably less of a difference when I was heavily involved with both as the sole sort of creative force. Now that Periphery has taken on a life of its own and it's a wholly collaborative project, I think there's much more of a distinction. Bulb is my own. That is something that I'd like to sort of be the main or only influence on, whereas Periphery is kind of the stark opposite, where I just want to be a piece of that project. I don't want to be the one making all the decisions. I want, and I enjoy the collaborative nature of that. In fact, I enjoy it so much, I think it's why I haven't worked on a solo project. I've done everything but, like, I've got Haunted Shores with Mark, got 4 Seconds Ago with Jake, because I enjoy collaborating with people, and it seems to be a less stressful endeavor. Bulb is very stressful as an official thing. I enjoy it as this idea of, oh, you could just dump whatever dumb ideas you got into it. But for completed ideas that need to have an official work, that's where I think I get a little bit of stress from. I am getting over that because I am putting together a solo album. But that has definitely been how I've perceived it. And I think as a result, when you hear that album, which, you know, I've put together a tentative track list, but I don't exactly know how it will sound, but I think it's gonna cover a lot more ground than people might expect. Even with the back catalog, I think I've curated a list of 109 songs, and it's spanning 8 volumes of regular material, 1 volume of electronic material, and 1 volume of orchestral material, for a total of 10 volumes or albums. So there's quite a lot of stuff to pick from. Some of that stuff's going to be re-explored either in Bulb or Periphery projects. Some of that stuff's already been re-explored on Periphery projects. So who knows what the future holds for this, but I do think there will be quite a distinct difference between the two.